All right, everybody, welcome to the Locked On Avalanche podcast, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. I'm your host, Chris Maselli, with another episode of the podcast dedicated to your Colorado Avalanche. And on today's show, of course, we will be discussing the Avalanche third loss in a row. This time, a 4-1 loss to the Florida Panthers. And that opening day win against the Chicago Blackhawks seems like a long time ago right now. But the Avalanche did play better compared to the Washington Capitals game. I don't think there's any debate about that, but it's still not good enough. This team is still not where they need to be. So we will break it all down. But first things first, thank you for making this show your first listen of the day. If you are watching on YouTube right about now, I'm going to throw up that graphic, and it is the Locked On NHL logo, which is Cody from Locked On Broncos and I are recording our shows pretty much at the same time, and we can't be in that account at the same time, so I'm using the Locked On NHL podcast, their graphics, which is why if you're watching on YouTube, you see the Locked On NHL graphics instead of the Locked On Avalanche graphics. But it has my name and Twitter handle, which is all the same. So, and follow the show, LOPN_Avalanche on Twitter, Locked On Avalanche on Instagram. Questions, comments, concerns, opinions, if you guys got them, I know you do, send them to lockedonavalanche@gmail.com. And like I said, follow these shows YouTube channel at Locked On Avalanche over on YouTube. So the Avalanche lose, like I said, their third in a row, 4-1 to the Florida Panthers. This road trip is not going the way you want it to go. You have to salvage at least one win in this thing. And where do you got to go to do that? To Tampa Bay. And it's not like Tampa's tearing the world on fire right now, but they are the defending champions. So, and they still have a good team. What is their record? I'm gonna look up the record very quickly right now. It's because I don't think they're getting off to a great start themselves. So I think you're going to have two teams here that are really trying to right the ship. Tampa right now is 2-2. Are they playing as I'm recording? It does not look like it. So are they playing tomorrow? No. So they'll be 2-2 heading into that game. Yeah, not where they want to be either, obviously. So kind of a little bit of a struggle for them. So both of these teams have not started out the way that they want to start out, especially the Colorado Avalanche. You did after game one. And then game two, you fought back. You had that kick or lack thereof, however side you want to take on that, with Tyson Jost. And then you went into Washington and played maybe the worst game I've seen an Avalanche team play in quite some time. You follow that up with a much better effort in Florida. Much better effort. I don't think there's any question about that. But it did seem like the Avalanche kind of ran out of gas in the third. The second period was a track meet. That was back and forth. That was fun action to watch. Avalanche hit the post twice on the same shift. I think Mikko Rantanen did it once, and then Nathan McKinnon did it the second time. They might have been switched on who did it first, who did it second, but they were buzzing around. And in the first, I thought the energy was good in the first, which they had none of it in the game against the Capitals. But I was happy with how the Avs came out. And then it just seemed, after the second, it seemed to die down a little bit. I don't know if that goal that Florida got with less than 1 minute to go in the second to make it 3-1, that you're not out of it clearly at that point. But I think that was such a disheartening goal for the Avalanche. Going into the locker room 2-1 clearly is better than going in 3-1. But because it happened so late in the period, And I think a lot of people right now want to put more focus than necessary on the officiating for that game. I'm coming right up. It was atrocious, really bad on both sides. It seemed to affect the Avalanche more. Why? Because the first one, an icing should have been called. I don't remember who Gerard was skating with. Were they neck and neck? No. Gerard had at least a skate or two in front of the Panthers player, and they didn't call icing. They waved it off. Gerard goes slamming into the boards, of which he had to leave the game, which right then and there, we're like, here we go again. Another Colorado Avalanche player, and an important one at that, leaving the ice. He did come back, but that play finished because Gerard went flying into the boards. Guy from the Panthers collects it, throws it to a guy in front of the net, and they get it past Johansson for their first goal of the game. Should have been. Could you have called boarding on that? Sure, but icing should have been called, so the boarding should have never happened. Because he had a step on him. They were not equal. If they are equal, fine. I'm more than willing to say like that was close enough. It wasn't close enough. He had a step on him. That is icing. So that's the first goal that shouldn't have. I don't want to say it shouldn't have counted. That the Panthers shouldn't have even been in the mode to score that goal. They shouldn't have been in the position to score that goal. The second one is ridiculous. When Mikko Rantanen is fighting with for position against a Panthers defender and gets, his progress is impeded and kind of pushed into the goalie, who is 3 feet outside of the paint. And he tries to avoid him. He hits him. He doesn't plow him over. Bobrovsky, I don't want to say he acted a little bit, but he kind of acted a little bit there. But it doesn't even matter if he acted. How far out of the paint he was, and Rantanen's kind of getting pushed in his direction. To call goalie interference on that is absolutely atrocious. And what makes it even worse is that the Panthers got a goal on the power play. Horrible. It was absolutely horrible. And then later on, they don't call Gabe Landeskog for a penalty for checking a player into the boards. And then the Panthers didn't like how he checked their player into the board. So they tackle him. And so initially they had a Panthers player in the penalty box, rightly so. And so out of nowhere, somehow they remove that player from the penalty box and then give Gabe Landeskog 2 minutes for boarding, I believe it was, or roughing or boarding. I don't remember which one it was. So how did that change? How did it go from you kind of had the right call there to no call on the Panthers and then putting Landeskog in the penalty box? Nobody called the penalty on Landeskog when it happened. None of them. I didn't see it. So, and then that was with like 4.5 minutes left, maybe a little bit more than that. But the Avalanche had to kill a penalty and waste 2 minutes that, they were still down 3-1 at the time. I mean, the game's not over, clearly. They weren't playing that well in the third, but look what happened against the St. Louis game. They had a penalty. They pulled the goalie. Now you got 6-on-4. Anything can happen. But, the refs took that away. But I will say this. This is not a problem for the refs. The Avalanche need to get into a groove, and a long sustained groove. They're not playing well for 60 minutes. They're playing well in spurts. Forget about the Washington game. Like I don't want to keep referencing that. That was bad from start to finish. So we can kind of put that one away, throw it away. We're not going to make any reference to it other than it was the worst game of the season. Outside of that game, the Avalanche are playing well in spots. Even the Chicago game that they won, Chicago played very well in the second period in that game. and the Avs had to fight to stay ahead. So for this is the same thing. You came out good. You tied it up late in the first with I think it was less than 1 minute left when Mikko Rantanen tied it up at 1. All's well and good. Second period, back and forth. Panthers get some calls and they take advantage of them. And in the third, I don't know if the Avs just didn't have legs or what, but it didn't do anything in the third. So that's where they stand. So let's get into the specifics of it. Who played well, who didn't play well, where things need to improve. But first, we are going to hear from Built Bar. And Built Bar, you love Built Bar. It's the best tasting protein bar on the market. They have so many delicious flavors to choose from, such as coconut, salted caramel, strawberry, cookies and cream, German chocolate. We just got an email saying there's a brand new blueberry muffin flavor available. So lots to choose from. And if you haven't tried them all, you can get a mixed box where you can get 2 of each of 9 flavors available. So not only are Built Bar flavors the best tasting, but they are healthy. 17 to 18 grams of protein. Calories range from 130 to 180. Only 4 to 5 grams of sugar. Only 4 to 5 grams of net carbs. Amazing flavors, all tasty and all healthy. And you can go to builtbar.com right now. Use the promo code LOCKED15 and you will get 15% off of your order. Once again, that promo code is LOCKED15 for 15% off at builtbar.com. All right, let's take a look at the stats for this game. Where I think, shots on goal, again, is a problem. And 38 shots on goal for the Panthers. And I thought Jonas Johansson, getting his first start of the game, played very well. He came up with some really good saves. The couple that he let in, I'm trying to think of, the Gerard one, probably could have stopped that. I don't know if he stopped playing thinking it was going to be either icing or a penalty. I'll have to go back and watch it because I feel like he could have stopped that one. But overall, I thought he played a very, very good game. And this is a guy who could be taking advantage of the injury to Francouz. And, are we looking at our future number 2 goalie right now in Johansson? If he keeps playing well, which overall, since his time coming over from Buffalo to Colorado, he's been a very solid backup goalie. And I think that continued today. So for him, I thought he played well. But again, you're giving up 38 shots on goal. And will this, get better as the year goes on? You would have to think so. And you keep going back to last year, the Avalanche were so good at holding teams under 20 shots on goal. So this is 2 games in a row. I think it was 40 against the Capitals, and now it's 38 against the Panthers. So not good. 31 shots on goal for themselves. The power play, 0 for 3 for the Avalanche in the power play. Now, this was, like I said, the first game where the top 3 were back. The power play did look good in terms of they were able to set up and, kind of get some good puck movement, get a couple good looks. Nathan McKinnon had a really good look and kind of sailed it wide. But I thought the power play in terms of, efficiency, in terms of having possession of the puck for periods of time during the power play was much better. There's nothing to show for it. You're, 0 for 3. So I don't think they have a power play goal in the season yet. But it did look, a little bit better. And it's too good of a top power play unit for it to fail all season long. Just give these guys, that's probably it. They had 3 opportunities in this game. So you'd have to think if, they get one in Tampa, it should look pretty good. So, but the pluses and minuses, and again, it's not always something that people hone in on and say like, well, you can take a lot of information from that, but you can at least take some. And when you have a -5 game, and for Nathan McKinnon, you follow it up with a -2. And when you have a -5 game, and for Mikko Rantanen, you follow it up with a -2. And then when you have a -5 game and you're Cale Makar and you follow it up with a -3. And when you're Gabe Landeskog coming back from your first game on a 2-game suspension and you come up with a -2, none of that is good. The only person that was plus was Ryan Murray. He was a +1. So last game against the Capitals, Darren Helm led the team with a +2. And now today, Ryan Murray leads the team with a +1. Go figure. Again, that's not the end all be all stat, but you can look at it and say, like, man, they've been -7 in the last 2 games. Cale Makar -8 in the last 2 games. And if you really want to get angry, go look at what Ryan Graves is doing over in New Jersey right now. Is he leading the league in plus-minus already? I haven't looked up the stat, but I wouldn't be surprised. So, yeah, I mean, but this is the early stages of the season. This is what happens. Guys get the ugly crap out of the way. And once they start hitting their stride, all these numbers will even out and everything will be okay. But for right now, you don't ever want to lose 3 games in a row. Avalanche are not known recently of doing that, of losing 3 games in a row. I think, wasn't it last year? It wasn't until, was it April where they finally lost 2 games in a row? If I'm not mistaken. So this team is typically really good at following up a loss with a win. And they don't go on losing streaks of more than 2 games very often. So this is a 3-game losing streak and fear of a 4-game losing streak, knowing that you have to go into Tampa Bay. So that's where they're at right now. We are going, I'm going to take another quick break, and then we'll talk about individual players who I think really stood out, because there were some. And like I said, because this was a much better effort, there were guys that you can look out there and say, like, wow, that guy is playing very well. And such was the case for a handful of guys, I thought. Again, much better effort for the Avs. And I'm not as angry as this loss as I was after the Washington one. And I know I just said I wasn't going to mention the Washington one anymore, but I am. Yeah, you had anger after that game. It was like, what? Like, what? Did they do anything right in that game? But for this one, you're like, okay, this is a acceptable early season loss, in my opinion, for the Avs, because the effort was there. They tried hard. You're working out the kinks. Just, you could see it though. Like those there were some passes that were just not there yet, and that's been the case all season so far. That's okay. I'm okay with that. And again, I'm not going to hone in on the refs. Jared Bednar is not going to hone in on them either. And he said kind of something similar to what I was thinking of. We have things that we need to correct before we can start going after referees. It's not the refs' fault on, why we can't, play better defense, or, not have 38 shots on goal, or not score on a power play, or our passes are not on the tape and just a little bit off. Like, that's not ref problems. So he's right in that. And I agree with him. So let's hear from betonline.ag, back and better than ever with a new interface for the start of the basketball season, with more prop bets, odds, and lines than ever before. BetOnline remains your number one spot for all the basketball and football action. Head to the new updated desktop or mobile website and sign up, and you will receive a 50% welcome bonus on your first deposit. Just use the promo code Locked On to receive your bonus. From basketball, football, baseball's postseason, the NHL, boxing, and UFC, right to your favorite Vegas casino games. Don't wait to take advantage of all the amazing offers available for the 2021 season. BetOnline is the fastest and easiest way to bet on all of your favorite sports. It's where the game starts. That is betonline.ag. All right. So individual players who played well, who didn't play well. Uh, again, I'm going to keep singing his praises until I don't know. I mean, what, maybe if he moves up a spot in the lines, he goes from the fourth line to the third line. Logan O'Connor is playing some excellent hockey. And again, had some really good opportunities out there. His time on ice went up a little bit to what was he, 11-14. It's another minute or minute and a half or so, I'd say. When he's out there, he's great. He's great. I'm a little. I mean, when you're on that line, you're kind of beholden to that line. But Maltsev, who was up on the second line today, had less minutes than him. So, and who I thought played a good game. He had a really hard fought battle up against the boards, kind of on a breakaway. I thought he held onto the puck a little bit. He didn't get a shot on net for that. And that one, he kind of skated past Bobrovsky and kind of like turned around to try to find someone to pass to when he should have put the puck on net. I don't know why he didn't there, but I thought he had a good game. Again, I thought solid game from Tyson Jost. I thought McKinnon played a much better game. I don't know if that first game he just needed to get under his belt, because he seemed, obviously when you have a -5, that's a rough game. So, but overall, I thought he played a lot better. He had some better looks. He gets that head of steam, and sometimes I think he has tunnel vision, because there were a couple times where he was flying down the center of the ice. Someone was kind of circling behind him. All he had to do was leave a drop pass, and whoever, I think one time it was Rantanen. One time I think it was Byram actually looked. He had him, and he just puts his head down and he goes for it. And people are going to clamp down on that. And Florida has a good defense where they can do that. So they did. But again, I was much happier with how McKinnon played. No issues with him going forward, clearly. Sampo Ranta did not play a ton, but when he's out there, I just feel like he makes his presence felt. He doesn't do much with getting pucks on net. I'd like to see that a little bit more from him. But overall, he's always around the puck, and he's a big guy. So on anything, on a forecheck, on a back check, he's a good tool to have, especially on the forecheck. So if he can take that aspect of his game and move it towards winning those battles along the boards and in the corners, and then facilitating and finding people that are coming down the slot or back out to the dots or wherever, like once he puts those two things together, I think you're going to see Sampo Ranta getting a lot more points in his pocket with assists and things like that, because I just like how he plays. The defense, they put Bowen Byram and Cale Makar together for the first time, so which was fine. I think Byram is just fun to watch, and like I said before, Cale Makar is quickly becoming my favorite player. So I think that I think we're going to be seeing a lot of that going forward. Those two guys, all the defenders played. I mean, not equal minutes. Makar played the most by far at 20, just over 24 minutes. Everybody else pretty much played the same minutes, so they are comfortable with those six guys, with Jack Johnson, Bowen Byram, Eric Johnson, Cale Makar, Ryan Murray, Sam Girard. Pretty much played even minutes. So I think that, that is your defense. McDermott not there was noticeable. Was it not? Don't tell me it wasn't. And again, I was, if you haven't listened to past shows, I was okay with the McDermott trade, because I thought he could bring some grit to the team. But when, your grit is nowhere near number one where it should be, and your defense is you're just letting guys go by you left and right, you're a liability out there, at least for now. So they took him off. They had 12 forwards, thank God, instead of this 11 and 7 stuff. It's just, I don't know. But it was definitely noticeable on the defensive end, it was better. This was an incremental step. And I know that's not what Avalanche fans want to be hearing, especially when it's your fourth game into the season. Now, all right, now you got 4 games. You got 4 games in. You got your top 3 back. The only one you're really waiting on is Devon Taves. Maybe he's back for Tampa. I don't. He's still in a red sweater, but he's made the trip with them. Let's just say he's not there. You would have to think the game after that, he should be really close to coming back. But if he's the only one that you're waiting on, that's not the guy that you're going to wait on and just say like, okay, we got to wait for him and then we can really take off. No, you have everybody at your disposal with the exception of him where things should start trending in the right direction. And I, for one, after that performance against Florida, even though it was a 4-1 loss, they got an empty netter to make it look a little bit more ugly. But you saw some improvement. And at this stage in the game, I think you're just looking for effort. And if all the other stuff come into play and you have a good game, clearly that's what you want. But right now you're just working the kinks out. But time is running short for the Avs because now if you lose 4 in a row, we've said this before the season even started. The worst thing for the Avs to do is get off to a slow start. Losing 4 in a row after you win the first one is a slow start. So if you can salvage 1 game on this 3-game road trip, and then you go back to Denver for, I'm not sure, I want to see how many games in a row you're going back there for. You're in an okay position. When you have 3 road games, you want to win 2 out of 3. If you win all 3, clearly you want to do that. But you want to go 2-1, not 1-2. Definitely not 0-3. So they play the Lightning, and then they are home for 1 game against Vegas, on the road at St. Louis, back home for Minnesota, and that ends the month for the Avalanche. So you got Lightning. So you're away, home, and it's Tampa, Vegas, St. Louis, Minnesota. So, I'm encouraged by that performance. Now we'll see if they can continue it and even go another step further against Tampa. And you can bet the Avalanche are saying we cannot lose all 3 of these away games. We cannot do that. So I was pretty convinced you were going to see a good performance out of them right off the gate, and you did. And it kind of just died down. It seemed like the tank started running empty after a little while. You're going to see what you saw in the opening stages of the game against Florida, amped up even another tick or 2 against Tampa. And they want to get off to a good start. They got to stop playing from behind. They're trailing a lot. The Avalanche aren't used to doing that. They're used to grabbing the lead early, maybe tacking on another goal or 2, and then letting that defense take over. They haven't had the opportunity to do that this year. So let's see. That will be it. I think Adam Denker and I from Locked On Lightning will be doing a crossover for Monday to talk about this Tampa Avalanche game over the weekend. So stay tuned for that on Monday. But that's going to be it for the week. So thank you everybody for tuning in, making this your first listen of the day. Definitely head on over to Locked On Fantasy Hockey to make that your second listen of the day. Scott Cullen, he hosts the Fantasy Hockey Show. He's a master of everything fantasy hockey. So if you have a fantasy hockey league and a fantasy hockey team and you need some updates, definitely go check out his show at Locked On Fantasy Hockey because a lot of content over there. So thank you everyone for tuning in today and this week. It is always appreciated. And if you want to go to Apple and leave a 5-star review, please do that. That always helps, obviously. So thanks for tuning in, everybody. We'll see you guys next week. Stay safe. Enjoy the weekend.